Honored to be sitting here with one of the greatest basketball players of all time, the great Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. I appreciate some time this morning. Thanks for joining us.
Oh, my pleasure.
First of all, you're so well versed in so many areas of not only basketball but of life. How do you see yourself when you think of your life and what you've accomplished so far as an athlete, as a statesman, as a teacher? How do you view yourself?
Well, I just view myself as somebody who's had the great fortune to have had so many opportunities to do so many things in my life, and I've tried to take advantage of them.
As far as the game of basketball, which is what brings you back to Milwaukee, you work with the Lakers right now. How has the game evolved? How has the game changed from when you played to where we are today?
Well, I think the game really hasn't changed that much. I think the players have changed quite a bit. The fact that so many of them don't go to college for 4 years has really changed the game, the professional game. It's made it for a longer learning period for the newer players to come in and make significant contributions, and that also has changed the college game because the colleges don't get to keep their players for the amount of time that they used to. So it's a little bit different in that sense, but the game is still what it was. The good teams defend well and shoot the ball well, and they are a cohesive unit. It's still not about individuals.
As far as some of the guys that you worked with earlier today, you talked about Kwame Brown, you talked about Andrew Bynum, guys that didn't have the same experience, the same four-year collegiate experience that you had. What is their learning curve? What do you try to teach them? What do you try to impart to them to make them more well-rounded basketball players?
Well, for a player in that situation who has not had a whole college career and hasn't played for a long time, they really have to learn how to recognize things on the court and anticipate even what's going to happen and be in the right place at the right time. Being in the right place at the right time on a basketball court is what makes I think that's the determining factor between the great players and the average player. A player like Larry Bird, a player like Larry Bird always seemed to be at the right place at the right time. You know, the ball would bounce and it would bounce toward Larry, and you'd think, well, maybe he's lucky. No, he wasn't lucky. He understood a few things about the percentages of where the ball will go, and he understood when to make the pass at the right time, which is always crucial. Your timing and your ability to anticipate what's going to happen next is crucial for any basketball player.
As far as your evolutionary process as a basketball player, did you learn that under Coach Wooden in college? Was that process once you got to the NBA under Coach Costello, playing with Oscar Robertson, playing later in your career with Magic Johnson? How did it evolve for you?
Well, it evolved for me a lot earlier than I think most players today. I started playing organized basketball when I was in the 4th grade. And by the time I got into high school, I was a pretty seasoned basketball player in that I'd been through a number of seasons. And I also had the tremendous opportunity to watch Wilt Chamberlain and Bill Russell play at Madison Square Garden when I was in high school. My high school was only 12 blocks from the old Madison Square Garden, and they did a lot of double headers in those days. So I got to see the professionals go and do it, and take notes, and it really helped me understand the game and what to do.
When you got here to Milwaukee after having such a successful career at UCLA under Coach Wooden, there were some great teams that you played for here in Milwaukee. Talk about some of the memories of some of the teammates that you had and some of the teams that the Bucks had in the early 70s and late 60s.
Well, my first year here, I got to play with Flynn Robinson, who was one of the best guards I ever played with. And we only played together for 1 year. But Flynn was a great dude in terms of being a wonderful teammate and a fierce competitor. And I really thought that we lost something when we had to trade him to get Oscar. But it worked out for us, and it worked out for Flynn. I got to play with Oscar Robertson, who was one of the greatest ever to step on the court. You can't give him enough credit for what he achieved at every level of the game, high school, college, and professional. Also got to play with really wonderful role player guys that people didn't necessarily recognize nationwide, but within the Bucks family, we knew how important their contribution was, and that would be someone like Greg Smith or John McLaughlin. Bob Boozer, Lucius Allen, guys who came off the bench or didn't have like primary roles, but very crucial roles.
Can you talk about your departure from Milwaukee? You've always said that it was never anything against the fans. There were just other things that you wanted to do in a community that maybe was better suited towards yourself. Can you talk about what led you to seek out going to Los Angeles ultimately?
Well, after Oscar left, that created a big void. You don't replace someone like Oscar. You hope that you can get 2 or 3 guys that can contribute to the team the way Oscar contributed to a team. So that meant that there were that there was a specific amount of time and a number of players that we had to go through to find somebody who could really fill that void, and it just didn't seem like it was going to happen. The first year after Oscar left, I don't think we won half of our games, and it just made it obvious to me that it was going to be a while before things got better here, and maybe that it was time for me to move on.
Of some of the teammates that you played with, you mentioned Oscar Robertson, of course, Magic Johnson, James Worthy, so many great teammates. Can you pick out a starting 5 that you would love to play with if you could take all of your teammates from college to your time here in Milwaukee to your time in Los Angeles? Is it possible to even do that?
Geez, when you play with both Oscar Robertson and Magic Johnson, how can you choose between them? They're 2 of the best that ever played their position. So that choice there, that's impossible. I played with Gail Goodrich my first year or two in Los Angeles. Got to play with Byron Scott and James Worthy. James would go on anybody's all-time team. That's an easy one, but beyond that, it's too difficult.
So many things that you've done since your basketball playing career ended. You've been involved in teaching. You've written books. Is it possible for you to say what you get more satisfaction out of all the things that you've done since your playing career ended?
It's impossible to say how much I've enjoyed each thing, but I'm totally thrilled by the opportunity to do a variety of things, and that to me is very meaningful. Just having an opportunity to go and learn and experience things in the world are it's just it's the best.
What are you working on right now other than your work with the Lakers? Do you have any books, any projects, any films in the works?
Well, I'm doing a documentary based on my last book, which I wrote about the Harlem Renaissance and also the origins of professional basketball. A lot of people don't understand the history of basketball. The original professional teams that had to barnstorm and play exhibition games all over the place under really crazy circumstances. That's more or less forgotten. The NBA started in 1947, and people think that that's the origins of the professional game, but actually it goes back another 30 years before that.
You want to get involved in coaching. You've said that you want to be an NBA head coach at some point. Do you have any theories as to why one of the greatest basketball players of all time hasn't had that opportunity when so many of your contemporaries and so many lesser players, to be perfectly honest with you, have gotten that opportunity?
Well, I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that I played for so long. I played till I was 42, and then after I retired, it took me 2 or 3 years to deal with the burnout. So here I was, 45 years old, entering the coaching ranks. That's kind of long in the tooth to just be starting, and I can understand the reticence of some of the owners.
Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, number 33, one of the greatest of all time. He'll have his number re-retired again tonight, number 33, at the Bradley Center. I appreciate the time so much.
It's been my pleasure.